All right, welcome to the April 7th, 2026 St. Mary City Commission regular city meeting. First item we're going to look at is the appropriation ordinance 1275. And I've already sent an email, but the standout item potentially is the high Tri-County waste that's just 2 months worth. That explains that. I don't know if you have other questions or comments. Do you have any other comments for me?
No, the Thomas Gainer one is 40% down for that sidewalk. Of course, Shipley's
Beautiful sidewalk.
Shipley CPA LLC one was for the audit, 2025. What's one?
Tri-County.
Well, he covered that one. That's really all I have unless there's questions.
So if there are no other questions when you're ready, I would entertain a motion to approve the ordinance as presented.
I move to approve appropriation ordinance 1275 as presented, or 1295 as presented.
Yeah, 1295 on the actual printout, 1275 the 95.
It's 95.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Aye. And there are none opposed. Proposed minutes for the last meeting. Yep, those are approved. Anything to add to the agenda? No. Okay, good. We begin with the first item, sewer bond. I don't know what GO means, but
General obligations for month. I would just say this, that I'm not sure if Mr. Cole will be here tonight,
Yeah.
but he might be. We could go right to the audit report and then come back to that.
Okay, okay, that's fine. So
Have you signed-
we'll just hold that. If he shows up, otherwise it seems to me that the real question, we're going to issue the bond. The question is, do we want to do 5 years?
5 or 7 with the information provided. But do you have that signed letter that we need for the audit?
Yeah. Get it signed.
Okay.
Would you like to see it, Russell? Sure.
I would say let's
The
just
finance can't leave without doing that or all the audit reports.
Okay. So yeah, we'll come back to the first item if we need to, but
Thank
next item on the agenda, 2025 audit report. Russell Shipley.
All right. Well, good evening. Everyone might be loud enough about it. I don't know. So I'm Russell Shipley. Got a couple new faces the way it looks for the city's 2025 audit report. Before beginning on the audit, I always have a required communication letter. I usually present, and I leave a copy here. I think it was really significant. You all receive your own copy of this letter in addition, but you can always get this as far as if you wanted a copy of your own. But highlights of that, no difficulties encountered in the audit, no disagreements with management. Everything I asked for, I received, came out on site for about half a day. Everything else was electronically done. So I was able to see support, sign-offs, approvals, everything I need to see and requested. I got, so that's always nice. Had some adjustments from the original trial balance, really nothing unusual. I always record on to, I would say, the audit piece as far as it goes. You guys track that separately. I had some addition for accounts payable, both something I went through on the audit and also something that was pointed out to me as far as accounts payable that came out after the books were closed, the invoices come in, things like that pop up that, hey, they go back into the 2025 year and 2025 budget. So that was put in, and then accrued payroll is something I always track as well and put on the portion that belongs to 25 back against 25 years. So it's that budget versus the affecting 2026 budget. So nothing surprising or unusual as far as activity there goes. So that's always nice as far as that goes. On the audit itself, after the table of contents is the audit report, pages 1 through 3. The highlights of this, basically, it always says adverse unmodified opinions on top. It says adverse opinions for GAAP. We're not worried about that. You guys pass the GAAP waiver every year to perform the audit on a regulatory basis of the county. So that's what 97% of all municipalities in the state of Kansas do. So that's not unusual. It's just that required language we have to have on here. So that third paragraph down, where it says unmodified opinion on the regulatory basis of the county, that's what we focus on. So unmodified opinion means everything's fairly stated in all mature respects. It's a clean opinion. It's the opinion you guys want to get. It's one I want to give if everything works out and looks good. So that's always good to see. Your responsibilities are the financial statements, the basis of the accounting, internal controls. Mine is to give opinion on that, remain skeptical and independent going through the process. So also anything that pops out as far as internal controls, we give recommendations and feedback to the council as well. So page 4, a little different angle here. This is your summary statement that shows all your funds in summary form, beginning cash, unencumbered, receipts, expenditures, ending unencumbered cash. Any accounts payable are encumbrances at year end, and then the cash that relates to the fund that's in the bank. As can be tied down. I always look up this page here and look at the 2 cash columns and see if there's any negative cash. Any negative cash would be cash violations. Everything's positive. Sitting in pretty good shape even compared to 2024 year end. Cash went up about $80,000 from end of the year to end of the year. Yes.
So just so everyone knows that the column that starts next year or this current year is the ending unencumbered cash balance. So if you look at that line item, we're starting the refuse fund with $892.
Correct.
Okay, so I just want to point that out because when you first look at these things, you look at the ending cash balance, you might think we're starting with $27,505. We're starting with $892. So it's that ending unencumbered cash balance is how we started this year.
Yeah, there might be $27,505 in the bank account for the refuse fund, but $26,613 is already spoken for based off of things that are encumbered or activities already occurred during 2025, just weren't paid for until 2026.
So you nailed it.
No, we got a budget violation you'll mention here shortly for the refuse, but I'm just saying that it's easy to get it confused by looking at the ending cash balance and thinking that's when we started the year with. No, we started 2026 with the ending unencumbered cash balance column. So
Correct.
$892 for refuse.
That is correct. So that's down from 13,000 again here. So that fund, you always, you run pretty close, and it's got pretty close a year as far as the cash balance.
That a bit later on.
Yeah. So just for you to go, when we do the financials up to this point, they're not showing these encumbrances. Once you approve tonight's audit, the city clerk will then put in these 61,000, 143,000 water, 84,000 numbers, and only then will our financial balances be up to date after the encumbrances are added or subtracted. It's just
Because that's all.
okay. I'm sorry,
Yeah, you're running more cash basis until either it's spent or, like in this case,
but it's
back
something.
in it's spoken for.
If someone would grab our February financials, they look at the cash balance in there, it would be misleading.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
Alright, moving on past that, page 12 is the next thing on my cover. And this is your summary of expenditures, actual to budget. This shows just the funds that are budgeted. It shows certified budget, total budget, if there's any qualifying budget credits, expenditures in that particular fund. And then the very far right hand column is any variance over or under. Obviously, everything you want to see is under, which shows a negative. You have the refuse fund, which is $12,433 over budget. That's just for, that's just something that, wasn't due to the building.
Trash.
Something
That part of the budget is trash.
Well, interestingly, I had a spreadsheet that tracked it, and that was one of the first ones. I said, no, that's okay. And it's the one that got me.
It happens. As far as like my thing, I said, hey, remind you to keep a eye on things, and you guys do budget amendments throughout the year as needed. But sometimes just
We generally wait till the end of the year.
I mean not throughout the year, but you do them once you track it, and then
Oh gosh.
you do your budget amendment normally to fix any type of this stuff. But sometimes it happens. Things pop up and it occurs. So
You like to keep Marty's humble.
So after this page is all detailed individual funds in more, as far as the general fund, refuse fund in more detail as it relates to the summary, both on the budget actual and then the front page as well. If you ever want to detail in between there are footnotes related to the activity of the city. I don't want to report out much. Page 8 does show the debt right now as of 12/31/2025. You don't have water supply bond for the last about $124,000 with pay on schedule 4 more years back, and that's gone. But we always have more to talk about the way it sounds as well. So overall, good audit, clean audit. Just a few adjustments that I normally make as far as that goes. That information is provided, and yeah, that's kind of the audit in summary. Questions?
Here, I had a question about the pension liability.
Yes.
Is there any asset that is being contributed towards to pay for that in the long term?
So as far as that footnote there, you guys contribute just based off of payroll every month or whatever Capers requires, whatever percentage they say, that's the amount that goes in. The unfunded portion, I don't know where to go over it because as far as the city's concerned or anybody who has Capers or KPNF is concerned, that's just an actual payroll created number to show that what the city's portion of the unfunded liability would be if they actually ever had you pay for it. That's never going to happen. They can't make you pay for the unfunded liability if they're underwater on or their for investments or the state not funding Capers. But they distribute that amongst all the municipalities that have Capers.
Is that like a gap requirement?
Yeah, on GAP, that would be on the books as well as other deferred asset and liabilities. But for a regular basis, basically cash basis, as far as this goes, we just have to put note that information. That number is never directly paid towards. It's just that's it's never paid for that. All the money that you guys pay in for your employees just goes into their employees, in the individual account as far as that goes. This number is created with different actuaries, different time frames of the year, roll forward a year in, to show that this is your portion of the underfunded amount that Capers has.
That's their problem.
Yes, and it changes every year. And if they change a percent based off of, we think it's interest rate is 2% versus 6%. That number could, go up 500,000 or drop 500,000. So it's just something that came up with GAP about 6 or 7 years ago that they required, or not GAP, GASB, that they required this information. So then everybody had to, as a underfunded hired actuary to create this number. So I don't want to focus on it because, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't mean much besides what we have to put in. So a couple paragraphs above that, it does show the contributions to the pension plan for the city were $122,956. That's what you guys paid in on behalf of your employees for 2025, as far as that goes. Again, that's employees, counts, that kind of stuff.
So it's a theoretical.
Yes. I suppose if Capers had to pay out every single person as of 12/31/2025, everybody, retired at the year end, they would, people would now have their full liability, full retirement, and your portion of for your employees would be $1,060,000. So I don't think that's going to happen. You will be paid as we go. I mean, that's, but
So on a broader scale, this is the Social Security problem.
probably. From history, from what I have gathered, it's because the state didn't always. The state was learning low on money, did not pay Capers maybe what they should have on certain years. So therefore, Capers was underfunded, and if they made bad investments, that contributed to it too. So I think they're straightening things out now, but this underfunded portion is from many years ago of basically not being accounted for. From what I can. You have a question as well? I'm sorry.
So page 12, no, page 4, sorry. Can you help me understand encumbrances and understand what? Yes. What are we looking at there with specifically the business funds?
So part of it is going to be, we'll say, for example,
Water Project 1A is part of that 84,000 that we still owed. We just got that bill tonight, but we didn't put it in the appropriations because there's a discrepancy of a change order that we paid, which they don't need to pay. But so that's that. The 143,000 part of that was that electrical project or something we didn't have paid off, or could be the KPP bill that came in late. But that's what it's money that we owe that just hasn't been accounted for in the calendar year.
so as of December 31, you haven't spent the money, but you haven't either incurred the expense, like a project has occurred, somebody contracted you to work, and they give you the invoice. And the invoice may not be received till January or February. Doesn't matter when the invoice was received, it's when the work was performed. Or if you guys approve something during 2025 year, that could go against this as well.
And an example of that was when Pat Cox was here to get that
Right.
sewer
Someone
line
asked about that.
inspection was 40.
You didn't
Remember,
give us an exact number then. So are we using, are some of these exact numbers and some of them estimates?
I would say most of them should be exact.
Yeah.
As far as because I have something to look, I can look
It was
at
a not
I
to
can
exceed.
accurate. I come out here in February-ish, March, and we can look at actual expenses, actual things paid.
Well, I was just wondering because there are times when we approve of something without having an exact number.
Then I
Yeah.
wouldn't put that in.
Okay, so that's not, this is actual something.
Yeah. So like there's like pre-payroll, I put a piece of that would be attributable to people who worked, the working hours in 2025, that was paid 26, that's part of these numbers as well.
the refuse would be Tri-County.
So
Yeah.
also, so basically expenses go back against the budget year that the work was done or it was approved by the council, as far as that goes.
So what if we don't get that bill till tomorrow at 8 a.m. and you've closed out the audit?
Well, then next year in the audit, if it was, I would say material significant, we could have an adjustment to prior year and put it back in the prior year budget if it was significant. As far as that goes,
And not to horn in on this, but this is the question I have. Is so each year when they do the budget, they're wanting to start to use the reserve funds, capital improvements, and make transfers. But I have suggested that on some of this, we wait until after December to January before the audit's closed. And as long as we have it budgeted, and say you had 40,000 budgeted, but there's only 20,000 available, you could make that transfer and we wouldn't be any violation as long as it's budgeted. Could you make the transfer for us? Or do we have to actually do it?
you guys normally have to do it. Now, something, if you guys made transfers and I was looking at something and after the fact and say, hey, well, now you're over budget by this because you made the transfer too much or maybe you just didn't transfer enough,
We cut it back.
wouldn't be talking about that at that point. But normally I would like to see you guys as far as you guys making the transfers.
Okay. But is that your preference or is that some?
Normally I'd say transfers are done by you guys as far as before, before the audit again begins. I mean, ideally before year end.
So like I said, before year end, we have to make the transfer.
That answer your question.
It did answer my
Did
question.
that answer your question?
Oh, I cut it on transfer.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
All right. So do you have any other questions?
It has to be approved by motion. If you're gonna approve it, you could say, I move to approve the 2025 audit report as presented.
So, there are no further questions. I would entertain a motion to approve 2025 audit report as presented.
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the 2025 audit report as presented.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a motion, a second. All those in favor vote aye. 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 There are none.
Approved.
So yes, it's approved.
And is it okay if we solicit a letter for next year's audit?
It's okay.
Alright,
Is
so
it okay with all?
an engagement letter as it's referred to, for happy, so whenever you're ready, send it on over.
I'll do. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Russ.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Very good.
All right, so we will continue to leave the first item open and move to ordinance number.
Thank you.
Yeah, see you later. 1360 common consumption area boundary.
So this is something you may want to carry over and talk with
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before. But what I said to Maurice, I think we should run it by the Chamber of Commerce before.
So the issue is this. A couple years ago, you formed a common consumption area. It requires a licensee, which is the Call Valley Chamber of Commerce, which means it's under their control. At the same time, you wanted to relax or eliminate the alcohol and certain malt beverage rules in the park. So we set it up. The state, alcohol beverage control, looked into it and said it can't be a standalone type thing. They recommend if you want to have the park, that sort of activity, you tie it to the downtown consumption area. And so in the packet is an ordinance that do that, but as Dr. Childs pointed out, we probably should check with the Call Valley Chamber to see if it's something that they want. And also, when you made them the license, whatever it is, I think it was only for an annual term. I think you have to look at it each year. So what I'm suggesting is that you table it unless you have specific questions and we come back at the next meeting.
But I think the logic makes perfect sense. We've just extended because it comes adjacent to the park anyway. And every time people request permission, we grant it, so.
Yeah, well,
Seems
so
reasonable to me.
the way the common consumption area downtown one is noon on Tuesday. If somebody wants to stop at Railroad Park and have some alcohol, they can. Okay, that's allowed from what I understand. So that would then carry over to Riverside Park.
So just run it past them, have them review it for their
Yep.
annual review and
Yep.
see if they're good.
Carry it over.
Thank you. All right, next item is Delta. Resolution 0426 master fee resolution.
So as we learned in the audit report, the fund ended last year with $890 some. Last year there was some unusual expenses, tires for the truck, and Bob was going to take the truck up to Westmoreland. How did that go?
For repairs, yes, there's some issues with running not to full power. And, they've diagnosed it, they have something they said was dropping fuel pressure, but he's still looking for some parts to see how much it's gonna cost to fix. He gave me a broad answer, anywhere from $2,000 to $12,000, but I don't think it's gonna be that much, because he said the pump's like $600 to $800 plus some labor. But I still haven't got a quote yet, or estimate.
But it's likely we'll be able to keep the truck, keep the operation going. But it looks like we could have an unusual expense again. And without an increase, it's barely or not barely cash flowing. So on that page, I don't have a number, apologize.
It's
So basically, you just subtract out the Tri-County refuse revenue and expense. It's a pass through. We generated $26,000 last year and had $41,000 in expenses. And normally that
26 on 43. Yeah.
whatever the math is, I hope I did it right. If
Yeah,
not,
so if
it's
we
wrong.
look at this, the biggest increase revenue is simply by changing that administrative fee. Because you get an extra $11,000 for each dollar you increase it. And so that seems like given that so if the RAM was tens of thousands of dollars, it's tens of thousands of dollars. So I mean, you make that $1 change, and you at least cover that. But it also makes sense to me to increase the punch card for the people who actually use it. I don't know what the percentage of people who pay the administrative fees who use it. I think we all like having the capacity, but we use it very often or not.
Yeah,
So
well,
in my opinion, it's just a question of how much we want to increase that per month fee. If we increase it just $1, we get an additional 11,000, which is already pretty significant. As you can see that, but then you don't get a huge change with if you increase the punch card, and that's probably those numbers are based on use.
So the administrative fee, the number Shirley gave me is 900 customers. So that's $1 a month for 12 months times 900, and that's what gives you that first dollar. The punch card, if I did the math right, if you look at that top row, you just sold 528 cards. Now, granted, that wasn't 528 individuals. People buy multiple ones. Some people are heavy users. Some people don't use it all. So that gives you some numbers there.
Well, in my opinion, I think we should increase at least $1 on the administrative fee. I'm more inclined toward to go to $3, and maybe to go up to 25 on the punch card. Seems like going up to 30 is a pretty significant change, but some change makes sense. I think we need to increase it somewhere. We haven't changed this in a long time, right?
I don't remember when the administrative fee call started, but it wasn't initially there, and then it was added because it was needed.
But the punch cards haven't changed in several years, as far as I know, since it was started.
Correct.
My understanding is that dropping off leaves and branches, you don't need a punch card.
Correct.
Do you have an idea of how much of its use is for that?
No, because it's just open, they come in and out throughout the day.
I mean, I suppose like there's only somebody there twice a week, right?
Right.
But on the limb drop off, that sort of stuff, Bob gets inspected by the state, and if we don't keep it well maintained and that sort of stuff, then we shut it down. But in the packet also was a resolution 426. Now, it did not have any changes made to it because nothing was. But if you do make changes, you could adopt, if you wanted to do it, adopt resolution 426 as amended. You'd have to tell us how to amend it,
Well,
and it wouldn't go into effect until the next month, May 2026 is when they go into effect.
Right.
So.
Yes, Mayor. So yeah, the refuse station is a neat thing to have. A lot of cities don't have it. And the other option people have is to run to the county landfill, which is a 25-minute one-way trip. There's a lot of fuel, everything that goes along with it. Also, so I think increasing the charges to make sure we maintain that optional service is well worth it. So I'd be in favor of going to $2 and $25. That's an option. And then we can always go up to 3 if
next
needed,
year.
but that's a good that might get us through the year.
Yeah, I think that would be wise to not kick it up too much, but then make sure we're covering our costs by going to 2. And the card itself, when we started this, trying to keep the dump open years ago, that's what we started with was $20. So I think it's due time to increase that.
25. Good. So just consensus? Or
Well, here, no, I want a motion, but I'll say, so
to do the
in the packet is the draft resolution, and even though you just updated it, it's updated to 326 when you did the electric rates. So this would be resolution 426. And the changes would be punch card goes from $1 or from $20 to $25, and the administrative fee goes from 1 to 2, and you could approve resolution 426 as amended. And then we'll get you a signable copy at some point, but not tonight.
So I would entertain a motion to approve resolution 0426 as amended.
Mr. Mayor, move to approve resolution 04-26, the master view resolution amending the refuse punch card $25 and the administration fee to $2.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
There are none opposed. Yeah, good. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the clubhouse floor ceiling.
So staff is the one that takes care of the rentals, and they go up there, and the ceiling is in pretty bad shape.
Second.
Bob here put together some basic numbers to have city staff replace the ceiling. It would be done during a colder time of the year. And if you're okay with that, and we do a good job on that, we put together a budget to fix the walls and the flooring.
I don't have it. Just out of curiosity, what do we have in that budget line right now? Are we just going to sort of?
We don't really
Build
budget
that
for the
out.
golf course. What gets
Yeah,
charged to the golf course is insurances, and so this year coming up with the budget, we're thinking. I talked to some people maybe putting the golf course into like a reserve fund because it doesn't really generate a lot, and it would be unbudgeted, and it wouldn't be a problem. But that aside, and I will answer. I mean, there's really just that revenue. I don't know what we generated.
How often do we rent that?
I mean, at least, I would say at least twice a month.
Oh.
Maybe.
If it was in better condition, you might get more rentals, but we did put new
How
curtains
much
in.
do we charge?
I'd have to look, I don't
But
even know off the top of my
not,
head.
let's see, $1,600.
Well, it would be a minor amount. It wouldn't.
No, I think it's well worth doing it. I think it's a really nice location.
Shirley, Sarah, and I just
Francis
put
is
new
walking out.
curtains up.
So
Anytime we bring the golf course up, I should have known that was.
yeah, Bob, any thoughts?
No, well, yeah, the ceiling, it should take a week or so, but right now, we're just getting into spring and our street work and the sidewalk project and all that.
So
In the
get
fall or something.
colder weather or after the season, so to speak.
For one-day access, if it's a resident in town within city limits, it's $125 for all day. If they're non-residents, it's $150. And if there's alcohol, it's $200.
At a ceiling.
Yeah.
But if it's okay, we don't
If they
need
want to seal it.
we don't need a motion or anything. If you want us to just wait and
No, I think we should do it.
fix the ceiling. Okay.
We just put new curtains up too, so that already helps.
Yeah, and if you're at some point, if you get serious about the remodel, some of those sliding glass windows should probably those doors should be taken out. One time, people thought about, and this is going to take some effort, to building up half of that with wall, and then just having the top part be windows. So imagine it just being half wall, and the windows would be in the
Well,
top.
I know people like using that deck, which is fine, but is it that we never talked about? That's still good.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you. We'll get on this.
All right. Next item: North Second Street water line, which is also tied into the low pressure email you sent.
Well, I put a memo together. Francis had asked that it be added. This is up on North Second Street, the old leg ladder property.
Yeah, for the record, I wasn't walking out. I went out to take a picture of our water map.
Okay.
So I can kind of see. So yeah, as Mr. Legleiter sold his property, the new homeowner just mentioned that the water pressure is a little bit down, or the son of the new owner.
So the house, we went out there and measured it today at the meter, at the faucet, it's 40 pounds. And the guy who lives south of there, that Walsh,
Mm-hmm.
his is also 40 pounds.
So are they fed off of
Aligned to the west,
to the west, right at the end of that?
where it dead
dead end?
ends.
And that's a 4-inch line.
Is it 4?
That's
It's
what it said.
green. Yeah.
Okay.
And then is the meter right at the end of the dead end?
Their tap,
Mm-hmm.
it's towards the end of it, yeah. Both they're tapped in different places. The Walsh lives out there. He's got 40 and he's tapped near the end of it, which may not have a lot to do with it, because if you look through, I put that memo together and I used that BG Consultants. There's area of town that just has 40 pounds of pressure. It fluctuates up and down. This particular one, so there's a line across the road now on North 2nd Street that we just call it the Academy line, but it's just a water line. And there is an out for that particular property owner by tying into that. They think that's 90 pounds of pressure over there.
12-inch line.
Yeah, tapping into that. So that in my memo,
They'd
that
have to dig underneath the road.
the city would have to. The city would tie into the main, go across about 85 feet, and put a meter pit, approximately, and then the property owner would have to come to that meter pit. If they break that second half of that, they break that lot into two, then there'll be another request for a meter on that other piece of land. Approximately where that fence, not the owner, but when it was up for sale, I got lots of inquiries about the property, and it seems to be a natural, it's zoned R1, minimum of 50 by 150, which they've got, and you can cut that into two. If
I'm
you
looking at these water lines. Looks like say the pipes up on Elm Street, where I live.
Yeah.
That's a different sequence of pipes. And then he's being fed from the smaller pipe that's further south, it looks like. And then
Well,
there's another
so-
set of lines that tie over to the church.
On the other side there. So I don't know if you, so on my little memo, if you want to fix, if you can fix what's coming from the west, I think you have to have an engineer look into it to see what's up, because I don't think you can do anything without.
Yeah, I wonder what the pressure is, further to the west, if it's just those two at the end, or if it's kind of a low, I guess that's what you're talking about.
I haven't got that data. We didn't have time to go out and check pressures until late this afternoon. But my point being is, if you think you want to fix the line that's coming from the west, well, I think that's going to be a project that requires an engineer, and it may affect a number of people because there may be more than he that just has 40 pounds of pressure.
Well, so if it's a one-person problem, that's one thing. If it's a whole neighborhood problem, so I personally think it makes a lot of sense to go, if it's not that hard, and check pressures, just moving, I don't know, house to house to the west, and see if that's just that entire line, or if there's something that explains a drop off.
Well, so also the pressure varies on how full the water tower is. So the top third of the water tower is the actionable part that keeps the pressure. If that tower ever falls below that, then the pressure just drops in the whole area there. Not north, because that gets boosted to the booster station. But,
What do you mean by north?
well, there's a north tower.
I mean above.
If you go all the way up to Galen, where the city's water tower is,
Right.
that water then falls out of that tower, so that's high pressure.
So what do we want to figure out tonight?
Well, if you're looking to solve this particular property owner's concern, you can agree to run the service line under the road to his property and put a meter pit there towards the edge of his property. If you're looking to see if the whole area is suffering from this, well, we need to at least do our legwork and come back to you, or hire an engineer to determine where the problem's at.
I personally would like, before we hire anyone, just to take pressures down that line coming in from the west, to see if it's an isolated problem. And it's not that I don't want to take care of a single homeowner, but if there's a problem, we should try to figure out how to fix it
Well,
systemically.
in the 2019 water report from BG Consultants, the south zone, which begins, I think, at Lynn Street, the low end of the pressure is 40. We have various areas of town, and another thing to take into consideration, that the lines were encrusted, the cast iron ones in 2019, chances are they may be more encrusted. So when there's water in there and it's not being used, you check the pressure, that static pressure, that can be high, and then once it starts flowing, then it could be greatly reduced, and it can be deceptive, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So there's issues with water. Now, this is interesting. We've had people complain about their water pressure being too high, and that sort of stuff. Say it's costing them thousands of dollars. When we set up the golf course survey, one person, and I knew who it was, because I recognized the writing, said that we're costing thousands of dollars on water pressure issues in their home. But you can put a pressure reducer on your house. And the gentleman who owns that land up there, the previous guy, Cletus Ledliner, did have a pressure reducer on there. And the water is going through that, but he says they have it wide open. But if it's 50 on one side and the pressure reducer is 40, even though it's wide open, it's still going to be 40. It may be interesting to see what, if any, role that pressure reducer is doing, even if it's wide open. So there's a couple things we can check on. It's been going on for a while. The gentleman who lives down there, Mr. Walsh, told our employees today that he's fine with the 40. He can take a shower and do clothes at the same time, but everybody uses the water differently. So there's that thing to think about. And in the little memo I put together, 40 pounds of pressure is apparently really worth looking into, because 50 to 80 is a modern range of what people desire, but not 90. I've been told that.
Just out of curiosity, do you have any idea how much it would cost to tap over to that?
On the back page of that memo, there is a cost estimate I put together that it was sent out to Dave Francis in an email.
So it's not enough.
It's not in it. I just did it today. I didn't get it done because I lost a day last week because I forgot we were closed on Friday, and so I was a day behind. But in that memo, there is a cost estimate for one meter pit, so it's like $1,200 for the meter in the pit, and then $500 for, and then $15 a foot to bore it. So 85 times 15 plus 500 plus 1,200 for one meter pit across there, approximately. So less than 3,000. I didn't bring my memo.
There's one.
It's on the back page.
Any questions for Maurice or any you want to talk about now?
I do need direction.
All right. But go ahead, Francis.
Yeah, it's nice. It's the last page. Right.
So kind of what's more about what's so this is inside city limits. This is kind of current within city infrastructure.
Even when he was outside the city limits, he wants to water, Mr. Mayweather.
But as a general rule of thumb, like on a new development, the developer pays for infrastructure, and the city takes it over. But for stuff inside current developments, the city kind of takes it to a meter, and then the property owner's responsibility is to run it to the meter.
Their side of the meter. There's a city side of the meter, and then there's a customer side of the meter. And the city usually puts in the service line and the meter pit, and then the customer has to build out towards it. The issue when you run into is how far do you go to take it to a person's property? But Don said approximately 85 feet.
So if you take a look at the west side of 2nd Street, that whole area, I know there's different people with different plans, and I don't know what'll ever happen or if anything will happen, but looking at the trends, if there's empty lots, they tend to get built. And that's currently within the city infrastructure. So let's say somebody north of the former Ledletter property or south of the Ledletter property or south of Walshwell sells off some lots, who knows? You know, all of a sudden there's a couple more homes or 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more homes. What happens then?
They put in the infrastructure. They come to the city's main. So if you're thinking about that property north there, like what's going to be the green homes and then Goldie Homes, whatever, I think they could go across the road. We could tie them in, and then they would take it from their property. I think they'll have pressure and capacity there.
But would the city, so let's say if there's one home pop up over there, would the city then take it off the main and put in a meter?
So the city would tap the water main, take it to the edge of the property or thereabouts, put the pit in, and then the customer would take it. So if they build 100 feet from the water meter, they got to come to the water meter. If they build 200 feet from it, they got to come to 200 feet. You generally just put it right on the property edge there or in the easement, like in the city. Think about when you're using that. So if there's a subdivision that's going to come in there, they'll have to pay for it, but we get it there. For the water, for the sewer, it's different. They got to go all the way to the main.
So I see what you're saying, Francis. Because there's plenty of area on that west side that could be developed yet.
Of this lot that we're talking about?
Well,
Or are you talking
not
about a different
no,
property?
North, because there's
The other property?
might be a housing.
The only reason I say that is because there was talk about trying to get another lot out on the backside. Well, you have to have frontage. But if you're talking about a different property, yes.
Yeah, so it seems like there's a sign that says whatever, Colby Homes or something. So presumably someone's got to build there. So it seems like running a main with good pressure across the road.
That would be
or a line across
that
the
would be
road.
across where they would build their entrance.
Yeah.
probably.
Right, but I mean, isn't it kind of all? So if you had a line on that side, that's not.
You'd want an individual service line. So for this on this property we're talking about, the Legliners Old property, I'm assuming they're going to want a second meter pit if they're going to sell off that second lot. Don't know that, but if they're going to do it, we're going to find that out. City would pay for the line extension across the road, under the road, set 2 meter pits, and then they would have to come to that.
And then for future things, we just do it again.
Go up the line. Yeah, you can't share the service lines. So I mean, but you could put a big access. If it's 8 inch, you could probably put a bigger line across there and have them tied to that. I've not done that. But I do believe there'll be capacity if that is an 8 inch line there.
There isn't really one further down the road though. I guess they have to run that south. There are two. Looks like there are 2 8-inch lines, one north and one south of the church. I'm thinking about more than just the immediate situation here.
Sure.
Than any of that big open space down in the south. And I'm guessing those green lines, 4 inch, are just not. You got to do a good job providing any water pressure over there.
Well, there's a number of factors. Are they good lines, clean, not encrusted? How many people are attached to them? That sort of stuff.
Those are the questions that an engineering survey would answer.
Well, I mean,
But our immediate question is, what do we want to do about this one? Go ahead.
I guess where I'm going to, I'm not familiar enough with the details of the process on what we do tap and main. But if, let's say there's, so for the next 10, 15 years, things keep happening over there. We have to tear up the road multiple times. The city's going to be responsible to tear up the road, set your pits, tear up the road, so go back and forth. Does it make sense to just I don't know. It probably doesn't. To tap it a 4 inch or something and then run it up and down 2nd Street a little bit, or at least get it set to, in the future, run it down 2nd Street farther.
That's my question.
well, so if it's going to be for, as you said, ever, if you're doing it for the sake of the system to maybe loop things around, but if you're doing it for future development, that may be need to be paid for by the development. But if you want to solve the initial problem, I don't see any issue with talking to the homeowner, getting approximation where they want their meter pit, and then coming back with an estimate and doing it.
That's kind of an interesting idea. I don't know. Would probably get an engineer involved, but if there is a water pressure issue down there, taking that one water line on 2nd Street, going down to the dead end and connecting it,
Looping it,
Yeah.
you would definitely want an engineer or two involved in
or two.
that. Well, if you've been following certain big cities' water plant issues, you want a whole team of engineers.
That kind of higher.
But-
The
I'm just saying it's easy to make mistakes when it comes to this kind of stuff.
I guess I'll back up a further step and say, do we in fact have a problem? I mean, do we have to? I don't mean to be callous, but do we have to respond to this at all? We're providing the
Another solution would be that the property owner would just get a pump inside their house that would pump it out. You can get those for $800 or plus installation. So there is if you look at the memo, there is a solution in there that it'd be all of the property owner.
because, for example, what if the other person, you said his name was Walsh, said, I don't like my water pressure?
Yeah, but he's out in the county.
Oh, that house right south.
Yeah, it's that little squares out in the county, but I understand what you're getting at.
Or anyone else on that green line? We still don't know what those pressures are, but they might be 40 pounds.
40 pounds, yeah. So basically what it is, the state requires a minimum of 20 PSI. But that's just to keep it positive, that no one can really work on that. 35 for fire hydrants or something like that. But the working one is 50 to 80 pounds is what a modern home. So this would be under that. But it also depends, because the Walsh gentleman said they didn't buy on 40. Legletter actually installed a pressure reducer on that line, so he was getting by with less. So I really don't. It comes down to the individual sometime. But if you're looking at improving the water system by looping it, that is a worthwhile endeavor, just to get a cost estimate.
I'm sorry, when you say looping, Francis, you mean looping over into that west neighborhood, or actually just looping the line down so we could provide stuff on the west side for future development?
So it wouldn't be a dead end.
Yeah, connecting it to that dead end.
On the west side.
Yeah, north.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I think that's a good question, because either we do this one thing at a time for $3,000 at a pop, or we do it once, have the infrastructure there for,
You just have to look and see what makes most sense.
yeah. Well, I
And
think
no decision has to be made tonight, but I believe something needs to be looked at. But I would also say this, the BG water report had other areas of town that were at 40 pounds of PSI.
Yeah.
And there may not be any simple
That's
solution.
why I ask if there's really a problem.
Well, because it's widespread, doesn't mean it's not a problem. But do you just want to go for the benefit of one person or one property owner? I don't know.
It's on electricity, Gerard. Do you have an opinion about this one?
I do not have any specific opinions about it right now. I like the idea of more reliable water.
I hate the idea of what?
More reliable water.
Yeah, sure.
Like, did it get more pressures in the area to see if it's affecting people there?
Yeah, that'd be good to know. That part I think we could do without any challenge.
For instance, where do you think it should loop to? What were you saying?
I don't know if that made any sense, but
No, it does make sense to not have dead ends like that there.
Right down to the end of that line, right? Where it comes right at the,
Years ago we were putting in water mains on Lasner's on this 25,000 block. I don't think it's that cheap anymore. But so that's how you would.
it's Walnut, at the end of Walnut.
that's the dead end street. So you probably have to run something down and then over. So how could we get a sense of how feasible that is? Or
To
how
do the
expensive-
extension,
Yeah, to connect those two together.
contact an engineer.
Oh, that's not, Don couldn't give us.
Well, he could, but he could be our first. I would say have him draw something up, and we'll see. But ultimately, it's just like in these projects, the one company will come in,
Right. So it seems to me we could just go straight from that 8-inch line across the street, satisfy this customer for $3,000. I think though it would be interesting to know as well. I'd like to know what the pressures are down that other, line that's supplying it right now that he's not satisfied. And then if we could get a rough order of magnitude about how hard it would be and roughly how much it might cost to connect those lines together east side to west. I think we could do those three things without much commitment.
and I think we could look to see if that's brought up in the 2019 BG water report. I didn't look for that aspect because I didn't think about it. So I will look into that too. Because we're, all those pressures in that memo, if you look through it, are from 2019. So chances are they're not the same.
So we have a couple things we can look at for pressures and then this idea. But given that until we hear about that, I don't think we want to commit to doing anything right away on this house. Does that make sense?
One more meeting. No, it's the chant. One more. Carry it over. But, so you're asking some.
Gerard would like to say something.
Are there any ongoing projects in general to improve the water supply and reduce redundancy, modernize older pipes?
Well, we just did Project 1A, and that took our balance way down. And we're going to hopefully be able to replenish that, and either do another smaller project or use it to pay
Have you
debt
not
service.
seen, did you not see the color coded map of the pipes that we need to?
The 2019 BG Water Report.
What I mean, yeah, what is, I know it's there. I mean, there's a plan of things that need to get done at some point, but is it like a real project that's being worked on right now?
We just finished 1A. We don't have any money to do anything with in that particular
Yeah, the
fund.
discussion point there is, do we just want to take their big chunks that are very expensive, take out a loan somehow and try to do them as presented? Or can we be, I don't necessarily want to say smarter, but can we do it in smaller chunks and be able to pay as we go rather than incurring debt? That's sort of where we are on that. And we were able to do the very small bit, 1A, with money that we had. And then the question is, what do we do next?
You save up more money.
Yeah. And that's why we've been bumping rates up a little bit in anticipation of that sort of stuff. But no, we don't. There's a concept, but we haven't ever approved
Yeah,
these segments that they're proposing because it was like millions of
well,
dollars.
$6 million at that time in 2019 to do what they recommended. In part, it's reliable because they did fire flow tests, and the pressure and the water flow reduces as the lines are encrusted. So at some point, it'll present itself whether you want it or not. But do you have to do such big sweeping plans like that? You don't have to do that, but you could.
I guess that's what we want to talk about in our work session.
Something to think about.
When do we have one for water scheduled?
Well, and I hope that this capital improvement plan, which I didn't have any updates to for this meeting tonight, I do have the water one laid out. I do want to talk about water when we get a chance, but I don't have anything specific, no. But for the water, I do.
So, can I ask for one thing on this? If it doesn't make sense,
No,
don't waste time on it. But if we're gonna look at the cost of tapping into the main on Second Street and then bringing it to a meter pit on the
west
west side of Second Street, is there, like in city water infrastructure, can we tap in, let's say with a 4-inch and bring it to it's almost like a distribution point, if you will.
that more people
And then-
would come to.
And then from there, we can tap it and then run it to a meter, and then in the future.
So basically, get it on the other side of the
Yeah.
road with a big enough capacity that we can add on to it in the future. So stub it off, basically.
Because if a lot of our costs are just fixed costs on boring, that's a big portion of it. Meter pit's going to be what it's going to be. It would just be kind of creating that distribution hub pit or whatever it would
Sure.
be. So it would make future taps a lot easier.
I think that's the question for Bob.
Don,
Don, it's a question for you. What do you think, Bob?
Bob's thirsty and all.
We won't mess up your road.
I can break the water line, but
Okay. So basically, we get that.
If we did that, it would probably set us up better in the future.
Yeah.
And then also work on getting more water pressures
Yeah, I think
from
so.
houses in that area.
West, just to
So
see-
there's two things there, and then also consider, even though kind of the looping idea, just to see if that would be beneficial. But it generally is, but to what degree, I don't know. Okay.
Okay, so we can move on to the next item, parking. Now, Bob, again, third and fourth, fifth, and seventh. Nice sidewalk, by the way, on Second.
yeah, on the lawn. So I think it was back in January, we were approaching about the possibility of changing some parking between, Third and Fourth, south side of Bertrand, and then between Sixth and Seventh on the north side of Bertrand. And I did contact KDOT. I still haven't heard back from them. I even sent them another email, see what the holdup was. But I've been going through some of the minutes that Marie sent out from back in the 80s, 90s. I'm up to like 2005 or 4, read them all. But it's come up several times, the parking. So it's doable and we can get a permit, but we just need to see if we want to move forward with it or not, that's all. If we want angle parking or not. So if we do, I can go for, get the permit, highway permit. Proceed, just some data at the railroad park, there's 16 spots available. If we change it to angle, we could get 22 to 23. However, behind the railroad park in the alley, there are currently 33 spots back there parking. And the KDOT supervisor said by changing that to angled, he was sure we could if we wanted to, but it would cause more congestion. And down farther between 3rd and 4th, I talked to the homeowner on the corner. He was concerned about the safety, people pulling out farther and farther to look to see if there's any cars coming, and he's had 2 vehicles hit there, parked the way they are now, parallel, total, but he was ultimately, he didn't care which way because he doesn't park up there. And he's been there for, I don't know, 10, 15 years. He said when it was an eye doctor's office, there was never any parking issues, for, but.
Did you have a comment? Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Eric. So I guess 2 different areas, the 6 to 7 on the north side of First Grand between 6 and 7. I think keeping that parallel is really important, just because it's already, there's enough action going on there. I think what we're currently doing is probably the best case scenario.
Yeah.
As far as down by 3rd and 4th, I think if I remember right, back in January, the idea is that there's a business there that potentially will create a lot more traffic and parking, and so there's a potential problem. It might just be worth it to wait and see if there is a business there that does present a problem, and then address it afterwards. Because if there's some hesitancy, well, you just wait until there's an absolute need. That'd be my 2 thoughts on it. So just hold off.
Oh, we've already done the legwork on it. I mean, we're presenting a solution to a problem that's not there yet, or not at all right now. So, but I do agree, Francis, on the 6th and the 7th Street there. There is a lot going on there. People trying to cross the street, and I think if create more of a situation than we're trying to correct. So, but, yeah, still be open to 3rd to 4th, but I'd say wait and let's see if we're getting those problems.
I have a conflict of interest.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. So I think we can make the decision. So let's just drop the 6 and 7 thing. We've answered that question, and wait and see what happens 3rd and 4th. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think that now, is there anything else that Bob's going to talk to us about?
Yeah. Oh no, the clubhouse. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I should have got you on one of those video shorts. Darn it. I didn't bring the phone.
I think we need to get you a new hobby so that you don't have to spend your time reading the old minutes from the 80s.
I'm always asking questions.
It's 100 years worth we have. I recently threw it down. Before that, we got started in the middle of 1914. Before that, it was done in hand. And it's either calligraphy or pushing Palmer. It's something really aggressive and difficult to read because it's so perfect. It's like a machine did it, but it was a person.
Yeah, better than garage.
Well, so when I get a chance, we're gonna pull
Just
those
saying.
down. We're gonna photograph those, and we're gonna submit them to Grok and Chat GPT to see if they'll, because they can. They do it all the time.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think it's time to move on to item H. I'd rather talk about the library rent. Which, do you want to comment on that?
in the letter, in the mail was a letter asking for. They just want to know what the rent's going to be.
And we did raise it fairly significantly last year. As according to what I remember Chuck's data, we're actually still pretty low for that kind of property, but I don't know that we need to raise it again because we went from, do you
It's
remember?
up to 1,600
From something like
from like 650.
6, yeah, so it was a significant increase. I think maybe we leave it. Any thoughts?
There's a consensus to leave it as is, or not. So
I don't know if Francis is chuckling at what I just said or what you just saw this, but we'll leave the rent as is. Thank you.
I just wish there was another library association other than the American Library Association or a library to join. The American Library Association is a very unique group that have a hard time being associated with in any way, shape, or form. I think they're horrific. And I think everything on their website clearly shows that they're just not aligned with anything good in our country. And that's where you get the library's a great service. People appreciate it. I just wish there was a better source of books and information of the American Library Association. So I don't know how we can encourage the library to look into that, but if there's a way that they could, I think it would be a benefit to them and to the community. But as far as the rent, keeping it the same is fine.
we'll record there's a consensus to not increase it for the 2027 year, 27.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah, and of course I agree with you. This is the underlying all that. That's the challenge underneath all of this. But we'll just leave the rent for the moment. The next item is electrical project, 5th and Bertrand, and I think we have yet to receive a second
Yeah.
quote. And we got the somewhere detail, but I still didn't see any. Did I miss the drawing?
They didn't do a drawing.
Okay.
We did a walkthrough with them. There was a very detailed description of what they would be
Right,
doing.
I saw that. I thought we were going to get a drawing.
Well, we did ask for a drawing, but they didn't do one.
Okay.
The other company might have,
Okay.
but they did not.
We just carry that over. You have a comment?
Yeah, and it's a hard one because I don't really have a clear opinion on what's right, what's wrong on how to look at it. But me with the homeowner or the property owner, if they want to do a project on that lot and use the lot to the greatest extent possible, and in order for them to do that, well, they're building where an electric pole is, and so they can't do it. And then they want to go a couple stories high, and in order to do that and get the size of building they want on that lot, they're going to be building into electric lines, which obviously they can't do. So they're wanting to do a pretty interesting project, but the electric pole and the electric lines are restricting them and not allowing them to do it. Our code, zoning code, building code allows them to build to the extent on their property that would interfere with the electric.
No setbacks. There's no setbacks on those lots.
So, from our perspective, from the city, well, we have city infrastructure and it's been there for decades, and nobody ever really thought that it would be a problem. But now it's a potential problem, and it's likely that it's holding back the property owner from using their property the way they want and putting a pretty big little project building there. So, you know, I met him out there and think, well, what is the city's responsibility? And yeah, I can see it both ways, but mainly, you know, if somebody has a piece of property and then I have property that is restricting them from using their property in a way which is totally allowed and normal, is it my responsibility then to change whatever I'm doing that's restricting their use of the property? And I think you can make a pretty good case that, hey, the city's got infrastructure that's restricting the use of my property, and the city move their infrastructure. Let's just say that's the case. Like we have a responsibility to move our infrastructure. So if that's the case, looking at the project, it's like, wow, okay, we've got a pole. You can't really just move the pole because then you got all the wires. It's just everything's kind of connected. So when I take a look, it's kind of a jumbled mess. In order for us to allow use of that property, everything's kind of connected. So it's like, well, to me, it's a larger project than just moving that pole and moving a couple lines. And so in order to move the pole, you have to extend the wires. Then the pole's going to be probably in a bad spot for access to the alley. Still have the mess of infrastructure back there, so that's where the idea came. You know what? If we could solve that property owner situation, but also take the opportunity to clean up a lot of our infrastructure in that whole area, and the overhead lines going across Bertrand, we've put a lot of effort into the downtown over the years to remove the overhead lines. It's a little bit of a beautification project. It's not structurally needed, it's just aesthetically potentially beneficial. But also getting all the wires underground, eliminating the poles, maybe a few poles eliminating, and getting ground transformer set maybe there that would probably make a little bit more sense. Yeah, so it's hard because it's a city infrastructure that's restricting property owners. So, but it's expensive, and in theory, everybody has to pay for it. You know, in the past, we've run into not quite to this extent, but similar situations where water drainage, for instance, we've had water coming off of streets and going through somebody's backyard, and that's just the way the water drained. So you had a decent amount of water coming off of city infrastructure, and its path was through somebody's backyard. They're like, yeah, that's not right. So what we ended up doing was we ended up putting a collection basin on an alley, and we're running an underground 14-inch tube, I think, under his backyard, and then we connected it to another storm drain. And then now he doesn't have city drainage or stormwater constantly putting a swamp in his backyard. I think it was a good project. You know, that was, I don't know, I forget how much that was, but we've had several of those where it's like, you know, it is only affecting one property owner potentially, but who's going to fix it? Property owner can't really fix that problem because he's messing with city infrastructure. So it really comes down to the city as the only entity that can fix the problem. And so, you know, if this property owner didn't want to build right there, we'd never think about it really. But because he wants to build there, is it our responsibility? And we now have to take it seriously. For me, you know, it's never fun, it's never easy because it's not something that's maybe a top priority. But whenever these situations have come up, I've always tended to say, ultimately, what's the responsibility of government? You go back to the principle of subsidiarity, and if it's a homeowner's problem that they can fix, well, it's kind of theirs to fix. But when it comes to the point of, well, this is really a problem that only the city can fix. So what's the homeowner's recourse? What can they do? They can simply ask the authority above them to solve the problem because they can't solve the problem. And then, there have been situations where we've discussed, okay, fine, we have to be involved. Is there a cost share? And it's always been brought up in the past when we look at things like this. I don't know what the perfect answer is, but I'm willing to certainly be open to that idea. But at the same time, at the end of the day, if the property owner is interested in the cost share, but they're interested in using the property, what do we do? And I think it's a serious matter. I think it's an important matter to discuss and have a solution for. And at the end of the day, I want to solve it. I think it's a good thing for us to look at it a level of we're the only people who can solve it because it's city infrastructure and the individual can't exactly hire a contractor and start power lines.
Can I just ask? I just want to verify. Is it? Can you see that? Is it this one? Is it this little one in the back that's the problem, or is it this big one?
It's the big one.
This one right here. Because it looks like it's over on the other side of the sidewalk, or is it the one that's further down the alley, or is it the? See what I mean? Sorry, we can't see that. Because there's a smaller one. Not exactly sure what that's doing. It's right on the alley.
I think that's at least when I talked to Don about it, that would be part of the project. That smaller one, I believe, is the meter for the railroad crossing. And
But
so
you're
that
saying that
comes,
big pole that's in the foreground of this shot, even though it looks like it's on the west side of the sidewalk, is a problem, or is it the one that's down the alley?
it's the big one. I believe is the problem because that is within his buildable area.
Really? It goes right up to the end there. Or
I think that may not. I don't. It's a small lot. They want to do a lot of stuff on a small lot, which everybody has a different approach to what they want to do on their property. But then again, they don't. If they're trying to put anything there that has a return on investment, they got to get square footage, and so they don't have a whole lot of space going towards Bertrand. They want a little parking out front, which I think they do. So they have to utilize everything going back, and so that's where I believe that's kind of the concept is they're trying to maximize their square footage, and then you can go back as far as they
I
can.
know what Joe's going to say. We just put angle parking in front there. Problem solved. All right. Yeah. I mean, that's the challenge of this scenario. I agree. And let's see what the other quote is. Who knows? Maybe it'll be less daunting. But,
The other concern that just got brought up to me back in October, and I told him I would stay after it and try to get some numbers and give him an answer, and he's been very patient. But he's like, when can I know? Because I think Murray sent out kind of their plans. I mean, they spent some time and effort and dollars with engineers and architects trying to get something put together, and I think they're all ready to go. They're just waiting on the city to say, give an answer on that on the electric lines. So I don't know what our timeline is on that second quote. What we're able to do to give them some sort of answer.
Yeah, we've Don has contacted Bar a number of times. It's not like he's not trying.
Yeah.
But I would say we have one quote in hand. When you add that to the next agenda, and if you don't have another quote, it's going to be difficult to get a second quote if it isn't Bar, that sort of stuff. But maybe you could take action with only one quote. If you can't get it, so the water tower we have up there, that ground level one, that was a no quote job because it was glass lined and there weren't any competitors. So it's been known to happen, but I don't know. This is similar. So I would say definitely add it to the next agenda. Get the quote from IES. Make sure it's still valid because it has been a few meetings since we had it. But FAR was here initially in December to do the bridge work, and they did take a look at this project. But then they said, "Oh wait, we need to send our engineer out to look at it." And then, oh wait, our engineer has medical issues, or not that medical, something in their family, and so I'm not sure where it's at. Although I did talk to Don about it today in anticipation of the meeting that verified he hadn't heard anything, and he had not. So that's where we're at.
So I guess if this is not appropriate, let me know. But I mean, can I just ask what's the commission's thoughts on it? Is this something that we do want to try to solve, or is it just not something that the commission's interested in? Because I've been trying to stay in contact with the property owner, saying yes, we're trying to move this forward as far as having some clarity on cost, having some clarity on whether or not the city's interested in moving forward, or it's just not. So I don't know. Any thoughts on the project as a whole?
Jeff?
I mean, there is the beautification aspect of it, clearing up those poles and across Bertrand and opening that area up. Going up to the armory, and I think with any project you're going to run into some hurdles, and definitely need to work with the city on it, especially something that major.
I think it's one pole from the armory, so it's like middle of that area. So,
and you definitely need to work with the city on some of the infrastructure. So I see what they're doing, and they would do what I would do, trying to maximize their return. So I would be in favor of proceeding with that once we get another estimate in to see where we are on the cost.
I have not yet made a profitability map of the city. I am quite certain that if done, the downtown would turn out to be the most profitable part of the city, if that is the right way to put it. Which is correct to speak of the city making profits on neighborhoods. And I think that means that that area should be taken care of. In addition, if they are going to build something as large as what they are saying, then the increase in property taxes would pay for this project in a fairly short amount of time, of course, into the general fund and to the electric fund.
Okay. I'm sorry if I missed it. Have we ever seen a picture of exactly what the footprint is of this?
I sent
only
out
heard people describe it.
their plans months ago. I sent out the plans. It was October. It's like it has a basement and then 3 stories. So they would build to the sidewalk because there's no setbacks there.
In that diagram, which I don't recall, do you have the exact location of the poles?
I don't think the poles are in the drawing itself.
See, that's I think that's what
He
I
did
would
have
really
it-
like to see.
He did have it surveyed. There should be some pins out there, and we've got to take some pictures of it. When we met with him, Don and I originally met with him, we said, that's something you have to take care of. It wasn't our responsibility. But he had it surveyed, and I don't remember where it fell on the survey because Terry Force has his pins out there. They should still be there. You could ask them if you invite them to a meeting to discuss their project.
Well,
if they could
I
change
agree
their
with everything
design.
that people are saying here, but I would just, based upon what I see in this picture, I can't imagine. I mean, I'd just like to see how far that building's coming over. I don't know how they could build it that far out. Maybe they can. So that I would just like to see precisely where the
Well, maybe
building
we
is
should
going.
invite the property owner or builder here, and he could put his presentation up there and get your questions answered. So it's a thought.
I guess so.
But also, you go out there. We'll take some photos. I'll try to get there tomorrow because the survey pin should still be there.
Okay.
But keep in mind, they're going to go 3 stories, and the top story would be open, and those power lines would go right by the edge of that 3rd story.
Yeah.
But it did the same thing to the surplus store, but they had built there long before electricity was there, probably. Built the poles. But yeah, there's pictures that show the lines crossing 24
Yeah.
from the 60s.
Yeah, again, and I'm also curious about that, and someone has brought it up, and I forget exactly what he said about it. That next big pole further to the east.
Yeah.
What about that? Seems like that's going to be on the backside of a large structure.
Well, it was. We need the map. I'm
Yeah,
not
so
disagreeing.
I would just like to see that, and that's not like a go no go. I think that there are advantages even without that.
Yeah.
But for such a significant cost, I would like to see what the problem really is.
Yeah, it might be if you have time to park over there and just walk around there and take a look,
All right.
and it might help a little bit. But it is a substantial structure, and the utility would interfere with what they're currently planning to do. I don't know if they have any alternative plans. If the city decides it's not going to move those lines, what they plan on doing then. But it's worth pursuing for sure because a lot of towns would love to have what they're going to build down there in their town.
What is it that they're going to do? Do we know what's it going to be used for?
Well, it's a variety of things, including a restaurant and some other things that there's a basement. I think that might be basically for the utility HVAC type stuff, and then an open floor, another floor, then a top floor that.
Could you resend that to me, please?
You bet.
So that I could.
Yes.
You sent it right.
I can just send it to you.
Do you have it? Okay.
I
Probably dig through and find it. All right. So can we?
Carry it over and get more information.
Is it okay if we hear from the? Okay. What's that?
Yeah, screen protector. I wish I knew that.
So yeah, it's just a 3-story building. Looks like it's been a while since I've seen it, but
With the basement, yeah.
it's fairly large. 4-story. I hope so. With a rooftop, but it looks like it's what is that? 60 by 50. Which I've not paced that off.
Yeah.
On the
Yes, I think no matter what, it may not even be the pole. It might just be the fact that those lines are gonna. I don't know where we're oriented, but they're gonna run right down the side of that.
Yes, and the top floor is going to be open type situation. So we can do some line work from the top.
That's true. They save money on the lift.
Yeah.
Did we have that, or is that something you guys have?
I had sent that drawing out from the developer.
Fine. Okay.
So
Can we go to the next one?
sure.
10-year plan, CIP, comprehensive plan.
Yeah, comprehensive plan. You just got a different line item. I just put it together. You folks are going to read the comprehensive plan and then advise the planning commission on whether to update it. They're waiting. They're going to meet again 13th. It'll be a quick meeting just for that Lakeview replat of that cul-de-sac. Shouldn't be in 5 minutes. But we get to talk about that.
You know what's funny? I didn't see a cul-de-sac. There's not actually a cul-de-sac.
Well,
That's
depends
fine.
on what you define a
It sounds
cul-de-sac
like
as.
a corner.
It has this big rounded corner, and in the notes I saw it referred to as a cul-de-sac.
Alright.
I know a cul-de-sac is dead end circle, whatever, but that's what it was called. And I'll ask AI when I'm done if there's
Oh, please do.
different definitions of cul-de-sac. because there is something called local usage. So that's maybe what it is. But I don't have anything on the comprehensive plan, the CIP, that spreadsheet. I had sent that out, and so it had really grown into more than what you'd asked for. It grew somewhat of an inventory, but one thing to think about. So we have an agreement with the Viking Industrial Painting for the North Tower, and that goes 15 years, and now we're finally in the lower mounts. We have the other ground level storage tank that we built in 2008 or 9, and just recently got inspected, and you agreed at the last meeting to have some interior repairs done to it, to include replacing those anodes. Well, the anodes may have not been installed properly because they're 100% intact. So Gerard had asked how we'll know that these people will install them properly. Is it, well, when they inspect it the next time, there won't be as much there as there should be. But my point being is, once they get done with the inspection, and we had it inspected previously by Pittsburgh Tank and Tower, and they had some recommendations. We're gonna run that by this other company here, but ultimately they have a proposal for another tank inspection in 3 years, and I want to put that in front of you to accept it so that we have that already scheduled. That tank needs to get inspected every 3 years moving forward. Even though it's glass lined, it's because it got off to a bad start with those anodes. There is some interior corrosion on some of the hardware. It's nothing serious at this time, but if we get it working, it should be fine. And then, as part of that capital improvement plan, I think we need to start doing. We do a third of the town for the sewer, or whatever we do each year. I think we need to have a well house inspected each year. The one in the park kind of got in a bad shape last year, and we just had to come up with was it $15,000 or $18,000? But we were under the impression, some of us were under the impression that it had to be replaced. But we're going to get a quote to just do a kind of a general maintenance type thing on our well house and do one each year. So every third year, the well house will have been inspected, so that we don't fall behind on the cleaning of those. So that's why I was going to throw in there for the water earlier. That makes sense?
Yeah.
But everything is fine in the tower. It's just that we need to have some maintenance done and get those anodes.
These are sacrificial anodes to be more sacrificial.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
You wouldn't help? He's asking.
So currently, they seriously have a team of 3 divers to do the inspection or something. Is there a way to do something more routine? Like, instead of wait 3 years
Well,
and see if they are actually working or not.
Well, I have thought about that. They come out, so we're in their queue to get the repairs done. If they could do a follow-up like the following year. The cleaning should be every 3 years approximately, but I don't disagree with you on that. Why wait the full 3 years to make sure that the animals are working? We can see if they can come out and do a spot inspection on that.
Since that's what they found, it's a mistake.
Or is there someone who can just put a submersible drone with a camera down there?
I don't know. You probably have to be licensed and engineer or some. I don't know. But the answer is probably yes. But do I know them? No. But we'll ask an engineer. I mean, I agree. We had somebody propose that one year of doing an inspection with a remote control something or other, but it didn't work out.
What happened?
Either they weren't up to it or their device wasn't. But I do believe it exists. So.
I mean, I'm sure you need some sort of. I'm sure whatever it is needs some certifications.
Well, we hope so. But the company that we're working with, they'll know. And maybe they offer it, but they put a diver in there. I went to the video and it's cooler. Yeah. So that was my thoughts on the. So also, if there's any thoughts on the capital improvement plan, I know you gave me the initial structure, and I have that. And on that spreadsheet that I'm working with, there's a line that won't print the stuff below it, but I think the stuff below it, although it's chaotic in some places, will be helpful in filling out the top. And not everything is a capital improvement, but you've asked over the months about these specific line items. This is one way to flesh that out and it won't be in the capital improvement plan because it won't get printed, but it would be there to view. That makes sense. But if you want me to start over from scratch, I'll do it.
It's very, so I think it's a good, it's really good. There's a lot in there. So I'd like to start using it. An idea, because we've had BG consultants do some work with us on the sewer, and also they were the ones I think did the big water plan.
Yeah.
There's a lot of information there, and it's hard to keep it all in your head as far as what the next steps are. So would it be a good idea to schedule a work session where B&G would come here and not have it on a regular city commission meeting night? Just so we can not be crushed or pressured to just the 1 hour. We can sit down with BG and kind of walk through the sewer plant, walk through our.
Those are different guys.
Pardon?
Those are different guys.
We'll say company.
The sewer, yeah, I know, but we have to coordinate with two of them. Daniel, I talked to him this afternoon.
Or two different work sessions.
No, I just want, I'm fine with it. We've had them do this before.
Yeah.
We've come and spoke, so.
Because just the water one in particular, that's a big document. They did a lot of work on that, and I think we could spend 2-3 hours on it, really, with them going through their different phases and what they're recommending, why they're recommending it. Because I think it's really important to have a good meeting. We did that first project, but we're still waiting to get into their plan. And I think that first meeting to really make sure we're on the same page of what's next, and then we can kind of iron out the long-term plan. Because we have that report, there's a lot of ideas, but we don't really have next steps. And so, and I think it's not something that's going to happen in 30 minutes. You know?
Right, and then we can lay it out on the spreadsheet, so we don't have to remember, hey, they came that one time, and I can't remember that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good idea.
So what kind of time frame are you looking at? It'd be a non-commission meeting night. Would it have to be Tuesday?
Not for me.
I could ask them if we want them both here at the same time, Daniel and Brian Foster, that they work out a couple dates that are non-city commission meeting nights, and because they attend other city commission meetings on those Tuesdays are pretty popular. So on a Wednesday night work, if you wanted to do, or to see what they have available. I'll touch base. And so just so you know, I've not followed, so for instance, the last meeting, I was somewhat directed to talk to the Kansas Power Pool about having them come talk to the commission, give an update, but I didn't do it yet because I thought you all 5 should be here to offer some dates that you'd be here. And then Raphael isn't here tonight. I'm sure he's watching, but no, I don't know that. But that's also something that can be done before a regular meeting at a work session, or a work session, 30 minutes, whatever. But I just said, that's part of my report is I haven't set that up yet because I thought you all should be able
I like that phrase, somewhat directed.
somewhere
Somewhat.
that would not pass the AI proofreader, but that's fine.
So the meeting location could be within the common consumption area.
Pretty close. It's
It's
pretty
getting
close.
bigger. We have time to expand further this way.
Maybe I don't know for sure, but I think there's this much now from the Christmas thing left. So,
But great on YouTube.
set up a work session on a non-city commission night with these two guys from, at least these two gentlemen, maybe Pat Cox if he's up to it. And Pat Cox, by the way, I haven't spoken to him today. He usually calls, but he didn't. He said he's always available for Zoom, or he says he prefers the Microsoft one, Teams. They have the best luck on that. So if you ever wanted to meet with him for any particular reason, we can bring him up on here. So that's where we're at.
All right. Next item on the agenda is the RFQ park consultant. And there's a draft here. Which looks fine to me. The parallel effort is populating the spreadsheet. So there were inputs from Joe and Gerard and Raphael. So if you had any further inputs on that, the spreadsheet for prioritizing, then we can consolidate it. And
You're
then
not
we
going
can
to
work-
you're not going to submit one.
Well, I'm fine with what I see.
Okay.
There's nothing additional that I'm gonna add.
Well, you're not going to have a spreadsheet of your own.
Nope.
Okay.
Um,
So I've got 3, and if Francis submits one, there'd be 4.
yeah, so as long as everyone who wants to submit additional data does that, then we can consolidate it and work from a single sheet.
Yeah, sorry about the second time. The first time I consolidated those 2, it turned out great. The third one laid an egg,
That's it.
but that's nothing that works. So as far as what Francis submitted here,
This can
it's
happen independently.
pretty yes. This will take a while. If you guys find out who you want to send it to, you're going to directly solicit folks to put together their qualifications, and then they send them to you. You could review them individually at a work session or at a regular meeting, and then invite some of them to interview if you get enough of them. Or just pick one and just say you're looking to handle it in a variety of ways.
So we could get to that. So yeah, I put this together a little bit quickly, but the goal here, I don't know if I articulated it enough for somebody interested in submitting their qualifications would get it, but it's mainly just drawings. That's kind of the most important thing. So what's the vision? What's that end goal we're after for those spaces? But that's where I put the what's not expected as part of the work. We don't expect them to kind of hold our hands through the whole process of implementing the plan or helping us with funding. We can do that on our own, or we're not even asking for detailed engineering plans. This is more just a visualize. Take all those ideas that we're wanting in those spaces, see what they can fit in, give us a couple different visuals, and then we can take it from there. Granted, if we do need more assistance, that's always another thing we can do in the future, but I think the first step is having a clear picture of what we want for those spaces.
So meet with the city commission, have them draft up to 3 layouts for consideration, help finalize park plans and list of items and a cost estimate, and then provide images of suggested parking spaces along with the final plan. So those would be 4 items. I'm just saying that because no one else has seen this. It just came out this afternoon. So those 4 items, and they don't want help with the implementing the plan, don't want help coming with funding, and don't want a lot of detailed engineering work. So it's pretty simple. People should be able to respond to that. You'll get engineers, you'll get people that just do the drawing, like you said, if you solicit them. So I guess the question would be, I mean, this is fine the way it is. Put on a letterhead.
I would prefer to remove the word if possible from it.
But my point was going to be, who are we going to send it to?
Just engineers, a lot of engineers have park. They do this. I remember when I was working with
Brent, Chestnut.
Benish.
Was that Chestnut?
Yeah, I asked them. I said, "Do you guys ever do parks?" And I said, "Oh yeah. We have a couple guys that do that all the time."
He left them, right? He went to the company, but that company remains. So Benish would be one. We can probably figure it out. We can figure it out.
Well, then there was
So maybe at the next meeting, we'll take the draft here, put it on letterhead, and come with a list of people that we'd sent to. You can sign off on it because we're not under any pressure. So if you have any of your own, we can add that too. If you come across somebody by the Google, Mr. Google.
Wow, we're going old school now, huh?
Yeah, you know.
All right. That was the last agenda item, but
Nope.
there was
General
a lot
obligation
on-
bond, number one.
Oh, back to Eddie. No, you're right.
So just so you know, there's two options. There's 5 years. Well, let me say there's many options, but what we've kind of narrowed it down to are 5-year and 7-year general obligation bonds. And in his email, we decided the principal is $395,000, and then that second sentence it says the 5-year debt service would be $90,000 a year, and then the 7-year would be $67,000 or so a year. So those are the two relative numbers as far as payments. But then he throws in some interest. Now that third paragraph says 5%. That's just a rounding thing because when you do the actual math, it's slightly under 5%. But for this example, I left it at 5%. If that makes sense. So if you want to, and there is an early payoff, I think after 3 years or so. So you don't have to, if you go the longer one, you get the lower payoff or the lower payment and pay it off early. If you do the higher one, you still pay it off early. I think it's out. I think we set it for 3 years. Remember that? So don't mean you have to. It means you can call the bonds in and pay up. So I would give him feedback tonight, 5 or 7. And these numbers are approximate as far as the debt service, not the principal. I spelled principal wrong in the newsletter, apparently.
Comment?
Yeah, we've got some cash in our carryover in the sewer budget that it would be safe using. So even if we wanted to take that 395 and bring it down,
Well, keep in mind, there's still this, and it's still just that 395 was the maximum. There was a contingency in there, although some of it's going to be used. There was a certain amount that may not be used.
and then if we agree to a 5-year or a 7-year right now, could we, as we get closer to the project happening and paying for it, can we reduce that 395? We're not locked into 395, right?
You mean that you have to spend that much?
Or
I don't
do you
think-
need the bond amount?
No, because I don't think that's set initially. I think that's the maximum or whatever. But
That's the one thing I would like to keep open. It's just, let's say our carryover continues to grow after the work session on the sewer plant. We're in good shape for a couple of years. Then we just are able to pay for part of it in cash just so that the bond is.
crazy. How about you either email me your specific question, and I'll take it to Mr. Cohen. And get back to you. But for tonight, are you looking at 5 or 7? And his email is in here.
I
Just
think
as
it's always smart to go shorter because you're not paying as much.
you're paying less interest, but
for the same.
if we run into problems at the sewer plant where we need more money and you don't want to raise rates, but just as Maurice, I don't remember whether we discussed it, but the average annual debt service for a 5-year amortization would be about $90,166, assuming semi-annual principal and interest payments, the total interest cost of $56,000. The average annual debt service for a 7-year amortization would be about $67,000, assuming semi-annual principal and interest payments, the total interest cost of $78,000. So you'd pay less, or whatever, but
$22,000.
not disagreeing. But that's the direction we need tonight. So from this, Mr. Cohen will then put this letter together, and so just so there's clarification, when he stood before us and said local banks, which he said a number of times, that means I think any bank in the state of Kansas, not just the 2 local banks, and because because when you choose a depository, you have a limited area to choose from, But for this, it's going to go a lot of places. So, and the company has a list of all the banks in the state, and they get solicited. He can't act as the face of it. I'll have to, because he can't act as a financial advisor because he's not. And but he would give me some tips. So he needs feedback, 5 or 7, basically. And if you have any follow-up questions, send them to me. Let's see.
I'd be agree 5, and then hopefully we can even pay for some of it in cash and bring down principal, so we're not at $90,000.
And put that in your questions too, Frank. Well, thank you. And if you have his email, you can do it directly.
That's our feedback. 5.
Consensus?
Now, we didn't get to talk about the Johnson grass. It's
No,
my
no.
favorite topic.
That's
Or
just
the butterfly garden.
oh,
I asked if that was a joke.
that was not a joke. That's
So
that.
where was that? Where was it?
The butterfly garden would be over by the track here, but I'm not saying it has to be a butterfly garden. I'm saying there's that green area over there behind the dumpster, and that over the years we've talked about doing stuff there. I just like to put some sort of park there. The butterfly garden was just an experiment of Grok versus ChatGPT. I kept feeding it back and forth to each other to see what it come up with, and that's what it came up with. But it wouldn't. I was thinking about doing some sort of walkway through there because we're better to walk than behind the dumpster. But we can do some planning.
Finally got over the reality.
The Johnson grass would be for the levee, and it's a plan that Bob's looking at or whatever. And of course, we're going to spray it. But if you've gone through it, burning it only makes it stronger. Spraying it comes back with fury. But the issue is it's dangerous because of the slopes and that sort of stuff. And last year he had a company that was lined up to do a drone spraying. I don't remember what it was cost, but we're going to follow through on it. We're going to try to get it under control. And I don't think it's going to be the high end of that dollar amount, but I just threw that out there. That was an interesting.
But we need to spray it and then we can change it.
There's a plan, okay?
Yeah.
And then also, if at the same time, we might look at that ditch on South 6th Street there, go to the dump. That one's out of control, but not with Johnson grass necessarily. It's just a nasty ditch. So, but yeah, I figured that would brighten everyone's Sunday up.
I mean,
But
that last little section before the entryway on the
that big, ugly ditch there that's steep and we burn every year. But anyhow, I don't really want any action on that necessarily. We're going to see if we can work it out. Signed pay app. Okay, so we received the final bill from Alunic on that water project, but we had paid. So there's 2 change orders. One was when they hit that sewer line or lateral, we had to pay the $18,000, and then there's another one for some stuff that Don had them do, and we paid that $3,000, but it wasn't taken off of the bill. So they sent us a bill for like $61,156 when in fact it should only be $57 or $58. When we get that change order worked out, we might just do a special IP and get this done with. But that was being taken care of. The WTC, I believe, is now off the North Water Tower. They were up there for all them years. I put a little memo together about that. So there's 4 air conditioning units on City Hall, and one was replaced less than 5 years ago, and the compressor is failing. But yet it's still under warranty, but yet they won't replace it until it fails. So it's not really cooling. I don't know what the issue is there. I did put the memo in the packet. It wasn't my memo.
So if it fails, then they'll replace it.
The compressor part of it, yeah. So we've tried to keep it at 58, but if it's not working, it's not going to fail.
But if it's not,
It's not working like it should.
they
I don't-
don't consider that a failure.
Apparently not.
Send Bob up there.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm just saying that we're eventually going to have to. So we did get a quote for a compressor only, then the whole thing. And then when they did the roof work up there, the company, they apparently moved them and built up these platforms, but they didn't put any freon back in them, and so we get them charged. I don't want to leave anything out. So on the
So
newsletter,
whatever we do, we're not gonna hire that company again.
they did a good job. They actually putting it on platforms was a wonderful idea. Will pay dividends in the future. It's just that we need to do the free on. Don't forget we have the newsletter to discuss.
Yeah.
Dr. Childs says that he does not want to write any comment at the front. He suggested we put a what's inside thing, and I'll do that. And then I will go through.
But I think just give them the content.
No, I like it. I really do. So anyway, I got that, and if there's no objection, we'll post it in the next.
Raphael's not here, there's no objection.
We'll post it in the next couple of days when I get the page and everything worked out, and then let's see. We have a software update. There's not anything going on that. Aflac is good.
Yeah, that's good.
Trying to think if there's anything else going on. Zoning map's been signed. We'll be putting the new ones up. The website, so the UDC is up to date. The city code is almost up to date. I just got a few things to talk over with the city attorney, and then we'll be posting the new, more updated version. Everything's been done by ordinance. It just hasn't been until recently incorporated in. So I've been working on that. So we're doing all right. So that's all I have.
Joe, did you have something you wanted to propose?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion, or I move to adjourn.
I have a motion, do I have a second? A motion and a second, all those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
There are none opposed, the meeting is